Welcome to Simple Human Design, the place where we break down this huge and complex system into bite-sized pieces so that you can start to understand, embody, and love your design. I'm Charlie, and I'm a qualified Living Your Design guide, a 5/1 Splenic Projector here to guide you on your journey to empowerment using this transformational system. Uncover your true self, decondition from who you've always been taught to be, and find the quirks that make you to start living your life with ease and flow, leaving that relentless pressure that society puts on you. You ready to dive in? Let's get started. So welcome back to Simple Human Design. I'm Charlie and I have another guest with me today. This is the amazing Dee. And Dee is originally from South Africa, but she lives in Phoenix, Arizona now. And we were actually just talking about the weather as usual, because normally in England, it's very, very cold, but it's been a little bit warmer. Not as warm as Phoenix, Arizona though, right?
No, absolutely not even close. Not even close. I think on you guys' worst day, that's like a regular Tuesday in the summertime.
Yeah.
You walk out and it feels like the heat's trying to attack you. And that's just how it is for 3 months of the year. But like I was telling you earlier, honestly, the other 8 months of the year are just perfect.
Just
So I'll take it.
perfect, yeah.
I'll take it, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Maybe I should visit during those months.
Oh, absolutely. You will love it here in the wintertime because the whole country is freezing cold and we're outside in shorts and hanging outside by the pool. So yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. So today we're actually going to have a really cool conversation about weirdness, about individuality, about unusualness. And even though Dee and I have very different charts, we also do have some similarities. So Dee is a 5/1 emotional projector. And of course, I'm a 5/1 splenic projector. And so we also have some kind of similarities in our chart in the sense that we both have individual circuitry. Now, individual circuitry is a little bit weird sometimes. When we let it out, when we let that sort of uniqueness out, sometimes we can come across as a little bit weird and wonderful, as I always say. So, yeah, Dee, should we talk about being weird and wonderful?
Oh, absolutely. And I already have questions. Individual circuitry, tell me more about that because I know the very basics of my chart. And human design as a system is also very complex. I have the books, but I'll look things up as I come across them randomly. But tell me about this individual circuitry. I'm taking notes. What is it?
Okay, let's have a lesson then, shall we?
Thank you.
Okay, so in the human design system, there are three primary circuits. So we've got tribal circuitry, we've got collective, and then we've got individual. And just like the names sound, the tribe and the collective is kind of all about the people. It's all about the tribe and it's all about the collective of humanity. The individual circuitry, of course, is all about the self. And lots of times people like us, we tend to be very independent. We tend to be very individual and very unique. And one of the sort of mantras that I have, having, two individual channels, is thank you very much for your advice, but I'm going to do it my way anyway. So it's a very much, yeah. Did that land?
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times this year alone, right? Like just with my own entrepreneurship journey, I've had to unlearn everything I learned in business school about business because it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for how I want to show up. So when I try to confine myself to the box that already exists, oh my God, the amount of resistance and discomfort I experience, which some of it I'll embrace as like, okay, maybe I need to grow through some of this. And then there are just other moments where I'm like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. This is not working. And I don't know how it's been working for you guys for so long, but this just does not make sense. And when you're that person in the room consistently, you'll either make a lot of friends, and you can also make people that you can also just come across people that you just rub the wrong way. So like I have a couple of mantras that I've now learned to live with now too, since learning about my human design. And it's if I'm not specifically asked the question, I will ask the question so we can engage in the conversation versus just me blurting it out and people not being prepared for what I'm about to say because it tends to throw people off too. So yeah, thank you for that. That makes complete sense. The individual circuitry thing makes 100% sense.
Yeah, completely. So I think there was a lot of projector brilliance in that sort of tiny little thing that you just said there. And really it is that, the way that the world has been designed is, especially the business world, it's not really for projectors, right? So a lot of projectors will try and come into business and they will try this and try that, and they will try the generator way, they'll try the manifestor way, they'll try the manifest and generator way,
Mhm.
and it won't work. And where does that lead? It leads to bitterness because we're sitting there and we're shining our light, nobody's recognizing us, nobody's inviting us, and it feels awful,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I love that you just brought that up, because it's really important. Like, this is one of my main messages for people is that if you are a projector, business is not done the way that you think it is. So
Yes.
have you got any sort of like little things that you notice that don't work for you and maybe you've changed and done something different?
Most basic one that I just offered upfront right now was offering my opinion without being asked.
Mm,
And so it was funny because, and I think every projector goes through this, right? You learn that you're supposed to wait for the invitation, so you tend to wait too long and end up not saying anything, which only leads to more bitterness. And it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I know the answer. I'm looking at the answer right now. It's in my face. So the solution to that was then ask questions, because when you ask questions, that's when the conversation happens, and then people can
yeah.
actually be like open to your perception and your perspective, and then you can share it that way. I've also had to re rethink my relationship to rest.
Yeah.
I need spaciousness in my day. When I'm go, 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 back to back, back to back, back to back, I get I get frustrated. Obviously, I get tired and I become less effective the harder I try to push. If we were having this conversation 4 years or 3, 4 years ago, I would have just simply said, I experienced corporate burnout. And because I experienced corporate burnout, I'm very anti going to the extreme as far as working. But now, as I look back at my journey, I'm like, no, you experienced corporate burnout because you were cosplaying as a type A personality for the majority of your life,
Yep.
when really you're more like a type B leaning towards C with like spurts of A-ness. Because I have those moments where when I'm on.
Yep.
And I've learned to honor those moments when I'm on. But when I'm no longer on and my battery is low, I no longer wait till I'm at 0% battery for me to back up.
Mm,
So like I will take a break at 50, 60%. That's when I'm like, okay, I need to step back a little bit, and then so I can come back fully charged. That's the best way I can explain it. So it's like a little social battery that goes up and down. When I'm on, I will do almost twice as much work as anyone will do in a month. But when my battery starts to go low, I need to back up.
yeah.
So those are the two things: honoring my rest cycles and my need for rest, and also just knowing that I don't always have to wait for someone to say something. I can always ask questions. Questions are my best friend as a projector.
Yeah.
Questions really help me out a lot. And I
Yeah.
just lucked out that in what I do, I've learned to ask really good questions, and that helps me along the way as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, a projector's magic actually comes from that question because we can see, what the other person's struggling with and how the other person can fix their, whatever they're going through. So when we ask that question, it can start the cogs whirling in their brain,
In
right?
words. Exactly.
But we don't get that sort of like, if we blurt out advice, we don't get that, oh, hold on a second, I didn't ask you for advice. So
One
I love that. Beautiful
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
And even like in like outside of professional relationships, just like my friendships as well. I've learned when people call me with stuff, I no longer jump to the solution. I'm a fixer. I'm naturally a
Yeah.
fixer. And I think
Yeah.
all projectors are fixers, right? Because we see the pieces, and I'm a triple split projector. So I will give you three different answers and three different possible solutions to the same problem in one go, effortlessly. For me, it's like it's fun. But if
Yeah.
if someone is coming to you in a moment of vulnerability, sometimes people just want to be heard,
Yes.
right? And to honor that, I now ask, when you come to me with a problem, like, are we fixing this or do you just want to vent? Okay, if you
Yeah.
want to vent, vent away. And then I'll start asking questions. That's how I start
Yeah.
to sneakily come in and fix things. I'm like, so what are we doing? Because
I love
the
it.
helper in me doesn't, she does not rest. She does not rest, and she likes to get things done.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if like in personal relationships, and I've had friends that have actually flat out said, dude, thank you so much for asking that question, because in this moment I don't want you to coach me through this. I don't want D, my friend, the coach, to show up. I just
Yeah.
want D, my friend, to show up and just listen. I'm like, you got it, chief. Tell me what you need.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
love that. And I
Okay.
think, differentiating that is really, really good for just so that everybody's on the same level playing field so that we know what's happening. And I think also with the projector, we very much put all our energy because of that aura being so focused. It's, we're putting all of our energy into helping that person. And, we want to fix. And when we know that we don't have to fix, we can just sit back and listen. And we damn listen deeply. We really do. But if we don't need to fix, then we don't have to. So
We don't. And
it's
it also saves
beautiful.
us the heartache of coming up with all these cool suggestions only for them to be rejected, because
Yeah.
that's not fun either.
Yeah, and that's a waste of our energy, and that's when we get tired and drained and
And
bitter
bitter.
and yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I really love the battery analogy as well. I think for the first 2 years of my experiment, that was me. I was, making sure that I wasn't getting to 0 before I rested. And it took me the best part of a year to understand when enough was enough.
Mhm.
And so it's not easy. It's very, very difficult for a non-sacral being to decondition that undefined sacral.
100%. And I think we also have to give ourselves grace, right? Human design is a system. It's not going to be a one size fits all. Even though we have the same profile type,
Mhm.
our process is going to be different. So you really have to put on your scientist hat and treat yourself like an experiment,
Yeah.
and just pay attention to little things like, okay, wait, when am I most effective during the day? So I did that. I've literally structured my work day and work week based on my energy levels because I've had to pay attention to that. So I
Yeah.
know before 6 a.m., do not call me for solutions, because I'm not, no, I'm not doing that. Not before 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But the best time for me to have meetings is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. because like I'm
Mhm.
just in that zone of being effective and communicating, and my brain is firing and wiring away. After 2 p.m., I have lunch. It's time to slow down. That's when I check
Yeah.
my emails. I'll do the mundane stuff. But my peopling happens between those 4 hours, between 10 and 2, and that's when I'm most effective with other people. So it's a
Yeah.
matter of just trying things out for yourself to see what works, and then being intentional about creating this spaciousness in your day. We need spaciousness in our
Yeah.
day. The most miserable projectors I know, and I was one of them, are the ones that sit in meetings back to back the whole day,
Yeah.
because by the time the day is done, you are just so spent, and
Yeah.
those 3, 4 meetings towards the end of the day are not your most productive either.
No. I
So
completely
yeah,
agree. I never do back to back. In fact, I have cancelled people because they've, maybe put something in and it's back to back and yeah, I
yeah,
need to cancel them because I can't cope with it. I also have a little bit of a rule that I don't usually do more than 3 things in a day, but it depends on the level of my energy that I'm being used for those 3 things.
yes,
So if it was like 2 networking events and a full human design reading, then yes, that's it. 3 things done, right? And I've got
yeah,
spaciousness and I've got time to walk and do everything else. If it was maybe just like a little meeting here or there or, something else, then I would do more than 3 things. But yeah, that's how I structure my day as well.
same, 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 same. I have like my list of 3 most important things that I need to do every single day, and even with like my Calendly schedule,
Mhm.
I make sure that my meetings all start 5 minutes after the hour.
Mhm.
So I'll have time to decompress between meetings. And I started doing this when I was still in corporate. And I was so fortunate enough that I had a leader that was supportive of how my brain functioned, and she respected it. And actually our whole team ended up adopting that.
Wow.
And yeah, because back to back meetings, you need time to decompress from your previous meeting before you jump into the next one, right? And
Yeah.
there are environments where you can't control your schedule that much, but to the extent with which you can, try and build in as much spaciousness into your day as possible. Whether you structure your
Yeah.
calls to start 15 minutes after the hour or 5 minutes after the hour to give you just like some breathing room to shake things off, jump around, go outside and get some sun. Whatever it is you need to do, you have control of your calendar as far as much as you can. Control it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because we're taking in so much energy, and we're as projectors, we are a lot very sensitive to other people's energies, whether we realize it or not. And this is the thing: is like a lot of projectors, we don't even know we're sensitive because if you told me 10 years ago that I was a sensitive person, I would have been like, effing and blinding and telling you where to go and storming off and shutting the door because I was a, you know, Capricorn, like get stuff done kind of person.
Yeah. No, seriously, I'm an Aries, so definitely jump head in first and ask questions that decide personality. And also just I've always known that I see people beyond like their face. Like that's the
Yeah.
best way I can explain that. That's just always been my personality. It's one of the reasons why I even chose the majors that I did in college, because I've always been curious about how humans human together. That's always been a thing for me.
Yeah.
Just fascinated about how we interact with each other and how we can just be better together. That's just, it's weird, but yeah, that's how my brain's always worked. So even as a child growing up, I was the kid that would like randomly say things and adults would look at me like, where did that come from? Like, you've been here before. Who are you? So that's I've always been that person. And then when I got older, got into corporate, started working, it helped me out immensely in my career because I was able to meet people's needs without them even knowing that they had those needs because I just saw beyond what was in front of me.
Mhm.
What I didn't understand is the amount of cognitive energy and emotional energy that takes from me. And of
Yeah.
course, when you're younger, you're on the go all the time. So it's happy fun times all the time. You're running around, especially in your 20s, you go to work, you go out with your friends, it's like woo 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 woo. And then you get older and it's like, wait a minute, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Something's
Not
gotta
at
give.
all.
I need to start. Yeah, and before human design, I really was very intentional about how I managed my energy because I understood
Mm.
I was coming into an understanding of I can't be on the go all the time.
Yeah.
And forcing myself to be on the go all the time and being on all the time was costing me immensely as far as my mental health, my physical health as well. So, like, that process of slowing down to just kind of get an idea of what your baseline reading is, it's a process, but it's
Yeah.
so worth it when you get it. When you finally
Yeah.
understand what your baseline reading is, you can then just start building your life around that.
Yeah. I love
Sorry, I can talk
that.
about
That's
this
perfect.
forever.
So I have a question for you about weirdness, okay?
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
whenever you said something weird when you were a kid or growing up or even now, do you think it's weird? Because I don't.
Absolutely.
I think I'm just
No,
being me. But then the reaction that I get from other people is like, I just said something weird.
same. Same. I have also been very fortunate in my adulthood that I have made a circle of friends that are into human design as well, and I have some solid projector people around me. So
Amazing.
when I get weird, it's actually not weird at all because everyone's like, "Dude, yeah, totally."
Yeah,
But
probably agree with you.
I know exactly. So it helps that I in my circle of friends I have those people, but I have
Yeah.
definitely had moments when I'm outside of that circle.
Mhm.
I'm reminded that I'm outside of that circle because I'll say something and then people look at me the huh look, and then once I explain it, it's like the light bulbs go off, and I'm like, "See, told you." People just need some context. Sometimes all people need is some context.
Yeah.
Another thing about the weird is too. Well, one to answer your question, when I say something that is weird, I don't think it's weird. For me, it
No.
makes complete sense. But I've also learned that sometimes people are not going to see things the way that I see them immediately, which is another frustrating thing with being a projector. Let me know if this resonates with you. How often have you called something out for people only to dismiss it, and then months
Mhm.
later, they're like, "You were right." And I'm like, "Yes,
Yes.
I know.
All the time, all the
I know."
time. It used to happen quite a lot in corporate as well for me. So
Yeah.
I was a marketer in my corporate career, and I used to walk into meetings, and we'd have all these meetings about like, oh, what should we do to hit our targets? What should we do? That blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I would come up with something, right? Being the lowest marketer on the scale, sort of
Yeah.
everybody else was director and all this sort of stuff. This was, 15 years ago. And people would kind of look at me and then go, "Oh, yeah, maybe," but then they'd look straight back to somebody else and I'd be completely dismissed. Next week or within 2 weeks, somebody else would walk into that meeting room, have the same idea as me, and everybody would be like, "Right, yeah, let's do it." I'm like, "What? That was my idea."
Yes. The frustration I have experienced with those moments, and it didn't help, of course, with me being a woman of color. Oftentimes, I'd be the only person of color in the room. I'd be the only woman in the room sometimes on big
Mhm.
projects, and I will call something out, and everyone will be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, cool, 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 cool." And then, like you. someone else says the exact same thing I said days
Yeah.
prior, or the thing that I said was going to breaks. And now everyone is scrambling for a solution. And then I show up with the solution because I saw this happening weeks ago. And then
Yeah.
suddenly it's like, oh my God, you're brilliant. I'm like, but had you listened to me, we wouldn't be
It wouldn't
here.
have broken.
It would have
Yeah.
been nice for you guys to hear me out the first time I called it out, so we wouldn't be here. So yeah,
Yeah.
having those moments,
Yeah.
frustrating, but it also taught me patience because again, people will only meet us where they are, and until they're ready to see it, all we can just do is show up and be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
only thing we can do, really, I guess. Yeah. Did you think that it was racism when that happened?
No, I never thought it was racism. I'm not saying I've never had microaggressions at work that were completely racist, but in those
Mhm.
moments, the moments that I'm thinking of particularly, it's more like you are the new face in the room, where certain people have been working with each other for a while,
Yeah.
and corporate culture also just values the big, loud voices in the room, right?
Mm.
So if you don't have the biggest, loudest voice in the room at times, it things kind of just like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's a cute idea." And I'm like, "It's not a cute idea. It's one you're gonna need in a couple of days, but okay, go ahead."
Oh, dear.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so like have I experienced some microaggressions that were racially fueled at work? Absolutely. But the ones that the moments I'm speaking of right now, absolutely not.
It's just projector thing.
Projector stuff and just typical corporate dynamics, right?
Yeah.
I think the higher up you go the corporate ladder, it gets whiter and more mannier.
Yeah.
Mannier.
I know what you mean.
You know? So and people tend to pay closer attention to the people that they are more alike to. I have been
Okay.
very fortunate that in the spaces I have been, I've had leaders that were great sponsors, great mentors, and would be
Mm.
like, if they caught wind of something, they'd quickly correct it. Like, "Hey, Dee pointed this out, fix it." You know, so
Yeah.
those are the people I have loved working under. Those type of leaders are my favorites that completely back up my wacky ideas because they know that my brain comes up with pretty interesting wacky ideas that are actually very helpful. It's been a mixed bag of things, but for the most part, it was just typical corporate dynamics.
Yeah. I know. I think I definitely had people who were in my corner at
Yeah,
corporate. I had like a marketing director who really saw me and really understood where I was coming from. And she was the same. She would call it out. She would say, "Oh, it was Charlie's idea," or
yeah,
something like that. And like I always go into a room or a meeting or something, and I walk out of it knowing who are the people that know that see me as who I am, and who are the people that do not at all. And I literally I can divide it very, very easily. These people saw me, and it's usually one, two, or three people, depending on how
yeah,
many are in the room. And then these people didn't, and it will be like, three, four, five, six, 10, etc. And I know, and I do it in networking events as well. Like I'll go into a networking event and I was like, that person can see me, that person can understand me, that person can't, and then I just know. So
I haven't looked at it from that perspective. I haven't tried that in networking events.
yeah. It's easier to do when you're in-person networking events for sure, because I can tell the
Yeah.
body language. Yeah.
I'll try that out the next time I'm in an in-person networking event. Actually, now I had a question for you, and I'm
Mhm.
curious if you've experienced this too. Have you gone through the cycle of being like the hero to being like the persona non grata with people? So like you're the hero when you're fixing problems that aren't directly tied to them, but the moment you start looking at
Yep.
their stuff, it's like suddenly they just have these walls that come up, and it's like, wait a minute, you were open to us exploring these things when it was other people that were in charge of them, but now that I'm looking at you, now that the lens is on you, suddenly it gets very uncomfortable and it's like, no, like I'm just trying to help either way. Suddenly it's like, and I'm like, I'm still the same person. Like nothing about me has changed over the past couple of months. So what happened? And I was reading somewhere too that sometimes people will put projectors on a pedestal, and it is such an issue for me. And I find myself constantly having to remind people that I am not perfect. Like, guys, I will get things right a lot of times, but there are going to be times where I don't get things right. And honestly, if you catch me on a low social battery day, I'm not the same as I am at 100% or even 80% or even 60 if you catch me at a 20. So don't take my need to pull back as rejection. I'm taking a break. I'll come back. Just give me a second. I just need to like recharge my social battery, have some alone time. And having to explain that at work and with like personal relationships, it's hard.
Yeah.
So Charlie, what actually got you into human design? How were you introduced to human design?
I had a very bad experience with an affiliate marketing company. So going back like 7 or 8 years ago now, I signed up and I spent a lot of money to buy a product. Well, it's an online program. And the idea was that I was going to get my money back by reselling it, right? And I tried for a year, could not do it. I managed to get about $100 back from my $3,000 investment. And yeah, everything went really bad. But there was one amazing thing that happened within this kind of community that I was in. And it was somebody who was in Australia. She's my amazing friend called Jen, and she came and, we just had a call together one day after we'd both kind of like flunked out of this affiliate marketing. And she just said, Charlie, I've had this most amazing experience. I found out all about human design. I'm really rare. I'm a manifester, and I want you to put your birth details in and find out what you are. And yeah, she initiated me into human design because I ran my chart and I was just like, what is this magic? Because it's right. And that was it.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you and I spoke a little bit about this earlier on too. I also believe truly that human design made a lot of things that I thought were just quirky about me and how I function make sense.
Yeah.
We all, I hope most of us grow up with some semblance of who we are as individuals and why we do the things that we do. But
Hmm.
when I first got my human design chart put together, shout out Jenna Zoe, and my friend Jackie put me onto it. Um, so post 2020, I joined a local social wellness club, Archipelago. They have another club out in Denver, Colorado. So they just opened up the
Hmm.
one in Phoenix. And through this, I met a whole bunch of people that went in the wellness spiritual space and just humans that just wanted to connect with other humans that were into the same thing. And one of my good
Yeah.
friends, Jackie, she was into human design. She put me onto it. And when I ran my chart, much like you, I was like, this is like astrology on crack because it feels so
Yeah.
personal, which it should be because it's human design. And my
Love
life
it.
has not, it has never been the same since because so many things that, like the weirdness, started to make sense.
Yeah.
Like the beliefs that I hold about life and how I need to show up for me to feel comfortable in how I show up continuously. I wasn't raised to prioritize myself. I don't think many of us are, right? Like, and for those of you that are
Mm.
listening to this and you had parents that encouraged you to prioritize yourself, I love that for you. Go you. That's just not the reality for a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
And culturally, it's like putting yourself first is it's selfish and it's frowned upon. Like, how dare you? You should always give to your last. And it's like, actually, no.
Yeah.
I've always felt like the answer to that was no, but now I understood why that answer was no because self-preservation, number one. And number two, I'm a better giver when I am at full capacity
Rested.
myself, right? And
Yeah.
when I'm rested. And my need for rest is not me just being lazy. It's literally my energetic body saying, hey, we've done a lot. So can we
Hmm.
just chill? And our a lot is not going to be the same as everybody else's a lot. There are energy types that can go and go and go and go, and they'll be fine. You are not that. And so having that now reflected to me in the form of this chart and this report, I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, human
It's life
design.
affirming, actually, isn't it? So,
Absolutely. I really wish there were more people that were crazy about human design because a lot of us would just be happier
yeah.
living in our own design.
Yeah, I think so as
And that's
well.
that's the whole point of it, right? That's the whole point of it. Because even with you and I both being projectors, which is what I think makes human design so much more awesome than just basic astrology, right? You and I are both projectors, but we're different types of
Yep.
projectors. We have different energy centers that are either activated or not activated in our charts. And for those reasons, we show up differently in the spaces that we are in.
Hmm.
Another cool part about human design is it made my life journey and story make so much more sense.
Yeah.
It made it make so much more sense. And then I also realized that I've always felt this way that I lucked out that I got to do what I love for a living.
Mhm.
And then my chart affirmed that and I was like, heck yeah.
Yeah. I do find when I'm reading for projectors, I do find that there are a lot of projectors who eventually find their way into what they're supposed to be doing. And, we're still highly conditioned. There's still, some bitterness there, some not self there.
Yeah.
But there will be certain things, and I'll be like, that's where you're supposed to be right now. This is like, perfect for you. And we do find our way there eventually because we do have some awareness, even if we struggle with actually recognizing ourselves, we do have
Right.
some awareness somewhere.
Which
Yeah.
also makes perfect sense because of our energy type, right? So I a good friend of mine, and she was my human design coach for a bit. Evie, she put this analogy together so well that I think I'm gonna butcher it. But what I remember the most is my part because really I need to mind my own business. So how she said it was like if you put like all the human design types on a boat,
Hmm.
the projectors are the ones that are like looking ahead and kind of like charting the path where you're like, hey guys, this way. We're the ones that are pointing everyone in the right direction. So it would make sense that we have to find ourselves first because I
Hmm.
can't guide you if I have not gotten myself to a point where I am in alignment. Right. So I
Yeah.
need to be in alignment first to be able to guide other people to alignment as well. So it would make sense
Yes.
that projectors tend to find their way quicker than most other energy types just because of how we're designed to function in this
Yeah.
whole spasm of existence.
Yeah, exactly. I love that analogy. That's brilliant. Awesome. Yeah, it's completely right. And just to hammer the point home again that we said so many times in this episode, we cannot show up and be that amazing projector, magic unless we are rested. And I think that's what other projectors who, haven't come into the human design system yet, I think this is what they struggle with because they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Just sit on the sofa? Like, am I supposed to
No.
just be in bed? And it's like, no, 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 no. This is like rest is whatever it means to you, but
Yes.
you need to recharge your battery,
True.
release, all of that stuff from other people, and then you can be amazing. So
True.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're right. I think projecting newbies, which I'm sure you were one at some point, and I was one too. There's this struggle of you go from doing all the things to doing nothing. You're
Hmm.
like, no, I'm resting, and it's like, okay, yeah, okay. There's a happy medium here. Let's meet in the middle. And sometimes rest doesn't always mean you stay in bed all day, and sometimes it does. Honor that.
Yeah,
If that's where you are on that particular day, honor that. We thrive when we engage with the things that inspire ideas and thoughts inside of us. So the things that you get really excited about, read a book on that, watch a podcast, just but
yeah,
relax. Don't make it feel like a job because then it stops being fun. Life gets so
yeah,
much more sweeter for us when we are continuously having fun with the things that we're doing and actually enjoying learning and sharing. And then of course our lines also mean different things for us, but I'm a 5-1. So
hmm,
learning is my jam. I love soaking in information and then synthesizing it and then just throwing it out there as something like that just looks totally different from what I learned, but has like different parts of what I have. Yeah, that's the best way I can explain how my brain works. But yeah, I'll soak information in, synthesize it,
yeah,
and then share it.
and
And
then
it's like
share it.
it's a
Yeah,
process of incoming and outgoing. But that incoming and outgoing process has to happen. I can't just
yeah,
stay in a I'm continuously learning space because it's a very easy way to get stuck. So it has to take information in and then share. At least
hmm,
for 5-1s. That's how I've managed to cope with my 5-1-ness.
yeah, yeah. And basically, that's the way that I see it as well. Because the fifth line is the line where you're sharing your message. So this
Yeah.
is the almost like the extrovert part, the bit that you're, putting out there into the world. So I completely get that because then the first line is the introvert part. It's the
Mhm.
leave me alone. I don't want to be interrupted. I'm learning something right now. And that's why I don't know whether this is going to land for you. That's why the term extrovert and introvert hasn't ever landed for me because I can be one, I can be the other. I can't be both at the same time, but I
Yeah.
can just as long as I do, you know, use like sort of run my life with my own energy and come back to my own true self afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, because of that struggle that I can be both, either or both,
Yeah.
omnivert describes me perfectly.
Yeah,
So when I'm on,
absolutely.
When I'm on, that's when my extrovertedness comes out. But when
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on, that's when my introvertedness kicks in, and it's like, hey, we need to retreat, we need to recharge, we need to learn, we need to just take information in, or maybe just not do anything at all, right? But
Yeah.
when I'm on, that's when I'm leaning into that 5 line energy where I'm
Yeah.
sharing and I'm talking and I'm throwing out ideas. I swing between both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. Oh, it's amazing. I wish we could talk for a really long time, actually, because it's been a great conversation. And thank you for asking me questions as well. That's really awesome.
Absolutely.
Great to have a convo. So I just wanted to have everybody here, who is Dee? What do you do, Dee? How do you help people? How do you guide people in this world?
Hey. So by trade, I am a coach and consultant. I specifically work with like leadership development and performance improvement. I like helping people get from point A to point B with a solid
Mhm.
plan that's sustainable, not neglecting their wellness. Because again, from personal experience, I honestly believe everyone has the ability to do what they love for a living, but it shouldn't come at the expense of your mental and emotional wellness. So how do we balance those things, and have you show up fully? So yeah, I'm like a little lighthouse, just guiding, just honoring my projectedness and guiding people. That's what I do for a living, and fixing problems.
Fixing
I also enjoy
problems.
fixing
Yeah,
problems.
I love
Yeah.
it.
People puzzles are my favorite. People puzzles are definitely my favorite. But
People
yeah.
puzzles. Yeah. Great stuff. Wonderful. Okay, so thank you so much for coming along, Dee. It's
Absolutely,
been
thank
amazing to
you.
chat with you today. Do you have like a quote or just like a last minute sort of little nugget of wisdom for our audience?
What comes to mind right now, and I think just because of the space that we're in energetically as a collective,
Mhm.
I think if you have never encouraged yourself to be curious
Mhm.
and just lead with curiosity, I would strongly encourage you to lead with curiosity. I'm
Yeah.
not saying completely abandon any beliefs that you have about yourself, about life, about work, about anything, but we're going through a collective shift,
Mhm.
and a lot of what we consider normal is starting to fall away.
Yeah, it's
So how
changing.
do you now, instead of being stuck in the falling awayness of things, how do you look ahead
Mhm.
and start to redesign for yourself how you want to show up? There's so much power in being self-aware. If you haven't done the work to figure out who you are outside of your labels, I would encourage you to do that, because once you know who you are, you'll know what direction to look, you'll know what conversations to have, you'll know what questions to ask. But to move forward, you have to do those 3 things. Know who you are so you can have a sense of direction and purpose, so you can have the right conversations, and you can ask the right questions. Be curious, my friends.
Curious. Amazing. That was just some beautiful projector magic there. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, you're
Yay!
welcome. Thank
Absolutely wonderful.
you. Thank you
And
for having me.
yeah, if you want to connect with Dee, all of her links will be in the show notes. So thanks very much, Dee, and we'll
Whoop,
see you
whoop.
on Threads. Yay!
Absolutely. Yay. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. Thank you, Charlie. This was lovely. Bye.
Bye! Thank you for listening to Simple Human Design. I'm Charlie, and there's nothing more that I love than seeing business owners thrive because they understand their design. I work with them through one-to-one readings and leadership coaching to help them to swim with the flow of their design and not against it. I also work with coaches to teach them how to use human design in their business to get client results faster and to receive raving testimonials and referrals for their coaching practice. Check out the links in the show notes or send me a DM on Instagram for more information.